My best friend is 14 and he's 17 and I don't know what to do. This was not my story. This was anonymously submitted to me on Instagram. Hi, my name is Kelly and I'm 14 years old. And I have a best friend named Ellie. We both just got into high school, so we're freshmen. Ever since high school came around, Ellie kind of changed. She started caring about her appearance more, boys more, and started focusing away from her studies. So after many failed relationships, she met this one guy named Evan. But the thing is, Evan was 17. Many people found this weird, including me, because he was a senior and, she's a freshman. While it's okay to date people that's, within your school, he just didn't give me a good vibe. There was always something off about him. It seemed that he just used her for her body and flexed about it to the other guys and stuff just to seem cool, because Ellie was pretty popular at the time. I tried explaining this to her, but she just simply wouldn't listen to me. So one day we were all supposed to hang out, so me and Evan were waiting in the mall, and I kid you not, Evan asked me, "Would you ever date me?" I was just in shock. I didn't know what to say. I'm running out of time. Make sure to follow for part 2. My best friend's 14 and he's 17 and I don't know what to do. So while we were waiting for Ellie, Evan turned and asked me, "Would you date me?" I literally just looked at him in shock and asked him why he would say that. He just shrugged his shoulders and said, "I don't know." I was very confused at the time. Later on, I told Ellie about this and she said he was probably joking or testing to see what you would say for his loyalty or whatever. I was like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. So then another friend was added on to our little friendship duo, and her name was Veronica. So I'm not gonna lie, Veronica and Evan had some pretty flirtatious moments. And a couple of months later, it turns out Vanessa has been sleeping with Evan for a very long time. And this literally broke Ellie's heart because Vanessa and Ellie were best friends. But Vanessa is claiming that Evan pressured her into doing it, that she didn't even really want to do it in the first place. But Ellie decided to drop the friendship and stay with her boyfriend instead. I still talk to Vanessa from time to time. But then after that, Vanessa told me some shocking truth. She was like, "Oh, you know how Evan has a stepsister, right?" And what she said was disgusting. My best friend's 14 and he's 17 and I don't know what to do, part 3. Vanessa had basically told me that Evan had slept with his younger sister. Stepsister, but still, that's gross. She's literally 12 years old. And I was like, does Ellie know about this? And Vanessa said apparently she does. I immediately called Ellie and asked her what she was still doing with him. She said, "Oh, that's not even the full story in the first place." I was like, why is she gonna sit here and tell me a lie like that? You know Vanessa never lies. If anything, she was very upfront about sleeping with Evan in the first place. Vanessa said that it wasn't a big deal and that wasn't the whole story. So I said, okay, what's the whole story then? And she said, honestly, it's really none of your business. I just sat there in shock because it's like, bro, you literally just sat here and basically are brushing off that your boyfriend slept with his 12-year-old stepsister. I had absolutely no words. I literally don't know what to say. And I don't really know what to do. Should I even stay friends with Ellie at this point? Let this girl know in the comments down below. Like story times like this, make sure to follow for more. I'm in love with him, but my Muslim parents don't approve, part 1. When I was around 5 years old, I met this boy, let's call him Henry. Henry was black, and he was in a really big family. Me and him were always at the hip, and we've been friends now for about 11 years. I'm now 15 in high school, and he's 16. I've had this undeniable crush on him. All of my friends know, I know, he knows probably, his friends know, and he has a mutual crush on me. So he decided to ask me out, and I agreed. So around this time, prom came around, and I dressed up for prom, and my parents were so excited to see my date. So when they opened the door and he was my date, they looked so disappointed, and they looked mad. It made me and my boyfriend Henry actually pretty insecure, but we ignored it and went to the school dance and continued to enjoy ourselves. When I came home, I got the yell of my life. My mom said, "Fatima, you cannot marry that boy." I asked her why, and you will not believe what she said. It was extremely racist. Come back for part 2. I'm in love with him, but my Muslim parents don't approve, part 2. I asked her why I couldn't date him, and she said, "He's black. It would be shame to us all if you decided to marry a black man." I was like, what? What is this, the 19th, 18th century? After that, my parents ridiculed me and belittled me. They even went as far as telling me they'll throw me out if I continue to date him. So I just said okay. But I wasn't going to break up with Henry. They're out of their mind. Once I went to college, I was going to detach myself from them and continue to be with him, since I had a full-ride scholarship anyways. One day I came home from school and I saw this random boy sitting on my couch. He looked like he was the same ethnicity as me. My mother said, "Fatima, meet Muhammad. This will be the man that you are going to marry. And you will marry him before you go off to college." I just stood there in shock and ran up to my room and locked the door. My mom started banging on the door, ordering me to come out. I'm running out of time. Make sure to follow for part 3. I'm in love with him, but my Muslim parents don't approve, part 3. My mom started banging on the doors and telling me to come out. And I just didn't. I just ended up crying in my bed. Then she ended up leaving me alone. They tried to get me to accept the marriage proposal and to legally marry him, but I kept rejecting it. I wanted to reject it for as long as I possibly could. So graduation day came, and Muhammad actually proposed in front of me, in front of the entire school. I told him no and ran off. I explained to my boyfriend that this was a forced marriage that I did not agree to, and he said okay. So a couple of weeks later, my parents claimed that they disowned me, which I don't really care. Flash forward to now, I'm in college and I'm perfectly happy still with Henry. We've been dating for about 3 years now, so I really can't see myself separating with him. To anybody out there that is into forced marriages, there is always a way out. Don't ever give in. True love is not forced and not a choice. It just happens by chance. Do you think this girl did the right thing? Let me know in the comments down below. I found out my dad was a zoophile. For those of you that don't know what a zoophile is basically someone who has sexual attraction to animals. Okay, back to the story time. My name is Layla and I'm about 15 years old. Growing up, I had a pretty good relationship with my father. My mom had died when I was about 5 years old, so it's just been me and him ever since. For whatever reason, my dad just loved to bring animals around. But for whatever reason, they would die very, very quickly. And he would never let me see them before they died, which I found weird. So one day, I had gotten this new dog, Chloe. My dad absolutely loved Chloe and would kiss her all the time. And he would always cuddle her to sleep. He would get upset that I would take her and cuddle her to sleep when it was my dog, but we took turns to solve this. So I kind of noticed that Chloe was acting very funny. She was licking her behind a lot more than usual. And I don't know, I watched her all the time when I was outside. I talked to my friend about it and they made a joke saying if my dad was doing stuff to my dog. I got defensive because my dad would never do anything like that, but I took their words into consideration. And then I set up cameras. Come back for part 2. I found out my dad was a zoophile, part 2. So I ended up setting up a bunch of cameras throughout the house to see what my dad was doing throughout the day. I wanted to see if my friends' suspicions were correct. I felt bad for recording him, I'm not gonna lie, but I just needed to see. So I left for school and then he said goodbye as usual and he took my dog, of course. And I ended up coming back home and when he went to work, surprisingly he was working a night shift that day, I ended up taking all the camera footage and examining it on my laptop. So he was just cuddling and giving my dog little kisses as usual. Then I kid you not, he started touching his area. And then next thing you know, it looked like he was about to do something to my dog, so I just quickly shut the video off. I didn't want to see him doing stuff to the dog. I didn't want Chloe to be in pain any longer, so I had no choice but to give her away. So I ended up giving her to the animal shelter, and my dad literally scolded me, but I didn't really care at this point. Then he ended up buying a dog that looked the exact same way, and acted the exact same way with it, and I'm not really sure what to do at this point. I love my dad and all, but should I report him to the police? If not the police, is there anything I could do about it? Let this person know in the comments down below. My BFF disrespected me, so I got revenge. So my name is Charlotte, and I'm currently a sophomore in high school. And my best friend is Mia, or so I thought she was my best friend. And we had another best friend. His name was Lewis. We were all a trio. We met in middle school and kept growing our friendship from there on out. So at first, I told Mia that I liked Lewis. And she was very supportive of our relationship. In fact, she shipped us all the time. But then after that, one day I came to school and they ended up dating, which I was very confused about. I told her I don't understand why she did what she did, but she told me she did what she did because he liked her anyways. She told me if I was a good best friend, I would be supportive and put my feelings aside, which I did, for a long period of time. One day, me and Lewis were talking and I looked at his phone and I saw certain pictures on his phone. Nudes from the same gender of him. So I'm not gonna lie, I went to tell Mia and you will not believe what she said. Make sure to follow for the next. My BFF disrespected me, so I got revenge, part 2. Since I saw these photos on Lewis's phone, I ended up telling Mia that I saw these photos and I suspected that he might be bisexual or bi-curious. She gave me a look of disgust and said, "Mia, I understand you're jealous, but you don't have to sit here and make lies of Lewis up. That's really messed up. And that's honestly disgusting. Ever disrespect him again, I promise you I will end you." And I was so confused because 1, she's never talked to me like this before, and 2, it's crazy that she'd think I'd do something like that. Faking someone's sexuality, that's a serious thing. So I just looked at her and said, okay. And this is when my plan began. I decided I was going to take Lewis away from her to prove a point. So that's what I did. I remember that Mia and Lewis had a date, and Lewis told me to tell Mia, which I did. But instead, I told her that she had a date at 8 p.m., not 6 p.m. So I helped her get ready and I made her actually look pretty horrible. And she ended up arriving at the date 2 hours later. He was on the verge of leaving, and he was actually extremely mad. You will not believe what he said. It was pretty shocking. Follow for the next part. My BFF disrespected me, so I got revenge, part 3. He was really mad and he said, "This is exactly why I should have never dated you. You're always late and you're not on time and don't respect anyone but yourself." They must have been having relationship problems because he's not the type of person to blow up. It takes him a lot to blow up. So I was pretty shocked when he said this, but also happy. So I honestly just continued the process of ruining their relationship. I messed up any dates, I made her look horrible, and 5 months later, they broke up, finally. So I decided to make my move on Lewis. I told him I had something important to tell him after school, and we met on the bleachers on the football field. I told him that I always liked him. I told him that I liked him for a very, very long time, and he said that he was flattered, and he was willing to date me and give us a try. I told him that Mia decided to date him, especially after I told her that I liked him. He was disgusted by this idea, and we both decided to drop her. Now we're in a happy relationship for about 3 years now. Thankfully, it was all worth it. Do you think this person had a justified reaction? Let me know in the comments down below.